Today I'm going to be talking about how I grew a website's traffic by 35% in 1 month. Back here you can see we're getting about 350 clicks per day in Google Search Console, and these days we're getting almost 500 clicks per day. In Ahrefs, that's up from about 6,000 traffic to about 9,200 per month. And here are some keyword increases. I am, of course, trying to be very careful not to reveal the site or the niche or keywords or anything. The coolest part about all of this is that I did not use any kind of SEO tools at all. So I think that's pretty cool. Hopefully you think it's cool, and let's get into how I did it. But first of all, let's talk about what kind of sites this is going to work for. And first of all, we have sites that have been neglected. Neglected meaning you haven't really updated the sites in a while, and they might have a downwards traffic graph going something like this in Ahrefs. But yeah, in general, it just means you haven't really been making many changes to the website itself. Next up, this works for sites that have a decent amount of content already. Generally, you're going to want more than 50 pages on your site. If you have 100 or more pages, that's even better. There's not really a hard rule here. It's just that if you don't have much content on your website, you're probably going to be better off adding a bunch of new content instead of doing what we're going to be doing. Next up, this works good for sites that are in good health. So if your site has crazy sharp declines like this one, it's probably not going to work well for you. If you're hit by any kind of algorithm update, or if you have manual actions in your Google Search Console, it's not going to work well for you. If you have an insanely spammy backlink profile and you're losing all your traffic, it's not going to work well for you. But like we showed before, if your website just has gradual declines like this, then you're probably okay. And lastly, the website shouldn't have any major issues. So keyword research, you should actually be targeting actual keywords based on keyword research and not just targeting random junk. There shouldn't be any kind of keyword cannibalization going on with pages competing to rank on your same site. You should have done your basic on-page SEO correctly, which like in this article on sirlinksalot.co, we've got our keyword in the URL, we've got the keyword in the title, we've got the keyword in the H1, and we've got keyword and variations of the keyword throughout the article. Your search intent for your pages can't be wrong, meaning if the keyword is by link insertions, your page can't be targeting something like what are link insertions, an informational query instead. And there shouldn't be any major technical issues on your site as well, like extremely slow loading times, tons of 404s, or anything like that. If you got issues with this stuff, you should definitely take care of this first because this is like the basics of SEO right here. If you got hit by an algo update or a manual action, you should definitely look into that. And if you have a really small site, you should just focus on adding new content for now. However, if your site is healthy, this is what I did to grow by about 35% in a month. So first up, I refreshed old content, and this is probably the easiest way to get SEO wins in the world. And all I did was skim the articles and I tried to improve them based on user experience, just meaning I'm trying to give the reader a better experience, provide more information, and just make it sound better and read better. So if this was our article, I'd literally just be reading through it, and if something didn't sound good or if I wanted to add some more information, I would just do that as I went. And really, I wasn't trying to do SEO at all, but just have a good article for the reader. Like I said before, I did not use any kind of tools at all for this, but if you really wanted to, you could come into Search Console, find the URL that you're improving, look up the queries that people are using to find that page, and then over here you could set up a filter for position. We'll say anything greater than 15. Then you could check out some of these, and if you wanted to add more of these keywords into your article, you could go ahead and throw them in and see if it will rank for them. However, you're going to want to look into a little bit, and some of these might need their own articles to rank. Or you could use a tool like Surfer SEO or Neuron Writer for a cheaper alternative. However, like I mentioned before, no tools were used by me in this example. Next up, a low percentage of the content was actually changed, meaning that I wasn't really adding in whole new sections or new H2s or anything like that. I was just reading as I go, changing a little bit here and there, and maybe adding a sentence every now and then. And I probably only updated about 10% of the site so far. As I was doing all of this, I also added more internal linking, meaning links going to other pages on my website. So like in this example article, we had an internal link going to the puppy training article right here. Maybe I was reading here and I noticed another word down here I could link to another page on a website. I would just go ahead and sprinkle those in. But I wasn't really adding too many. I just would do things that made sense for the user that they might want to read more about. In most cases, I didn't really change the anchor text to make it more relevant or like an exact match anchor or something like that. I would just read the article, choose the words that were there, and make that the anchor text. So if we had an article about teaching your puppy something, maybe I could just use the anchor text right here, "We'll teach your puppy." This makes things more natural and conversational. Also make sure that you don't over-optimize your internal linking. Next up, I did not use any kind of siloing rules. A lot of SEOs end up looking like this when they talk about internal linking. However, I don't really think that's as necessary these days anymore. So I just link to stuff that the user might want to click on and read more about. So doing this, of course, you need some knowledge of the website, knowing which pages to link to. If you don't have knowledge of the site, you could come over to ChatGPT and use a prompt like this. Here's my article. Which of these pages are most semantically relevant to my article? Of course, you'd put your article link right here. Just know that when you're doing this, ChatGPT really starts to kind of mess things up when you start getting over a certain number of URLs, so it's not really the greatest. You could also use a tool like Link Whisper, which I don't really use anymore these days. And really, I'm not going to lie, this could be one of the hardest things to automate with content if you're trying to do it right, but I think it's very important to do this and do it well. So the ideal situation would be for you to be actually familiar with the site and the articles on the site and to add links in that way. As I was doing this, I also sprinkled in some more external links, meaning links to other websites, not your own. I did the same thing and I just linked to things that made sense that the user might actually want to read more about. And I didn't worry too much about linking to my competitors. I know some people really worry about this, but as long as it wasn't like the same article that I was trying to rank the keyword for, I would pretty much link to anybody. So coming into detailed over here and looking up external links on this page, turns out that these guys don't really have much external linking going on at all. Anyway, same concept, just read through the article, and if you see something that the reader might want to read more about, but you don't have information about it on your own website, you can link to a source. This ends up providing more value for your readers, and Google might end up seeing you as more trustworthy as you are just trying to provide the reader with as much information as possible without just keeping them on your site and trying to sell them something. Next up, I was adding new articles to the website, but I was only doing about one new article per week. The articles were written with GPT-4, I believe, but then they were optimized with Surfer just to make sure we had the right keywords in there and whatnot. And then these articles were heavily human edited because I don't play any games with AI these days. I want the articles to be good and I don't want Google taking my stuff down. I like to use AI as a starting point, but then these things are changed up quite drastically to make sure they don't get popped. And I've got a big checklist over here that I use for that. But the most important things are adding more EAT and editing for information gain, which we can go over in a different video. Which, by the way, this is my new channel. If you haven't subscribed already, I'm growing pretty quickly, so go ahead and give me a sub so you can catch my new videos when I put them out. And I plan to be doing about 3 to 5 videos per week at this point. And the results. Like I mentioned before, I got about 35% gains doing this. And remember, that's using no tools for updating the content, and I've only updated about 10% of the site so far. It's also worth noting about 95% of all the traffic gains came from old content, not the new articles being added. Of course, I verified that using Ahrefs. It's also worth noting that I got a lot of gains from articles that weren't even updated, but just the website overall seemed to just rise. So why does this work? We've got this cool Google patent over here called freshness-based ranking with some very scientific diagrams in here, by the way. This one looks pretty cool too. But I'm definitely not a scientist. I'm just an idiot refreshing articles. As far as the new articles go, you are also adding topical authority to your site, so you're covering the topic more broadly. I think Google also just likes sites that are being maintained. If you think about this for a second, no one would want to go into a store, for example, that's not being maintained. It's dusty, it's got cobwebs everywhere, it looks like it's from the 80s. So it just makes sense. Also, I think Google likes sites that are helpful, and the internal and external links helped with that. And it's also worth noting that the site that I did this on didn't even have post date or update dates on the articles. So, for example, on this article, you can see it was updated on October 16th, 2023, almost a year ago, so it might be a time for a refresh on this one. But the website I did this on didn't display these dates at all. And I could be wrong, but I don't think it matters too much. I think Google can tell when a page was updated just by keeping track of when it was last crawled and when things changed on it. But like I said, I'm not a scientist, so do your own testing on that one. All in all, I think it's just crazy the results you can get when you're not even really trying to do SEO, but just trying to help the reader. And I promise I'm not a just write content for the reader type of person, but you can actually get results doing this kind of stuff. It's also worth noting that no new links were built in this time, which is quite an achievement for me considering I have this link building agency over here, astrolinksalot.com. And as you can see, not much link building has been done to this site over the past year or so. And moving forward, like I mentioned before, I've only updated about 10% of the content so far, so I will continue updating the rest of the website. And really, you should be checking for this and doing this maybe every 3 to 6 months or so. Although I am definitely guilty of not doing this as often as I should, and every time I come in and start editing content and I see this spike in traffic like this, I always regret not doing it sooner. All right, guys, that's it for now. Go ahead and give me a sub and give me a follow on LinkedIn and Twitter as well, as I'm just starting to get active on these platforms. All right, bye bye. See you next time.